If I was asked to describe my idea of heaven on earth, it would certainly be set in a country garden like this, surrounded by a glorious jumble of colour and perfume, and shared with those most beneficent of creatures, the birds, the bees and the butterflies. Well, I believe that it is possible for all of us, here and now, and whether you live in the town or the country, to create that perfect paradise. But of course, the first things that you need are those most precious of commodities: peace, quiet and privacy. Now, you may feel that's impossible to achieve, but believe me, it isn't. However crowded and noisy your surroundings may be, we can all use our gardens to hide ourselves away and immerse ourselves in the natural world.
Started with Ellie got some seed and planted them up and they grew up. So we decided to get some more and they grew. And then we bought a planter, a box, you know, and then another one, and then another one. And it just wound up like that, you know, it's just got from bigger to big.
We're 30 feet up in the air now, we're on the roof, and there was no garden when I bought the house, and so I had to invent a garden. And the only way to do it was with pots and filling spaces with as much colour and as much greenery as I could. I started off in rather a small way here with a few pots, and then it grew, and now we've got over 1,000 pots, and it was really just an experiment to see what would grow in pots, what you could do, and now it's all taken over.
At Barnsdale, I will design and build 2 gardens, one that costs a fair bit and the other designed with economy in mind. They will both be specifically made to create a rural environment wherever they're situated, and they're both based on the original Persian paradise gardens. The ancient Persians built their gardens to appeal to all the senses. I will use highly scented plants to create a wonderful treat for the eye and the nose. I have designed the gardens to be restful, so sitting areas are important. The town garden has a sitting area facing a large pond. In the budget garden, there'll be a shady arbour to sit and look out on a small wildflower meadow. A tunnel to walk through before sitting again on a patio that will cost virtually nothing. Before starting the groundwork on my 2 gardens, I set out to find gardeners that had already created beautiful country havens that were situated in the most difficult city locations.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno d'intorno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad uncino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto ad uncino d'amor. Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel capo cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, non più fra.
Martin, you live in one of the busiest cities in the world, and yet you've created around your house what is really a leafy countryside haven. Now, why have you done it?
I did it, I suppose, because I live in London. I don't have a normal garden. I was brought up in the country, and I want to create as rural an environment as I can to live in. I love the countryside, I love the open air. I like to spend as much time as I can out of doors. And with this roof garden, I somehow have managed to create an environment that is unexpected. It gives me huge pleasure. I come back at the end of the day and walk and water and think and enjoy it. Gardens are there to be enjoyed, I think.
Now, you're overlooked on all sides. In London, you can hardly avoid that. You've got a school down below there, which makes a little bit of noise. You're giving your neighbours a wonderful view, but how do you achieve your own privacy?
I suppose by building screens like we have here, trellis with things tumbling through them, which doesn't really block out anything, but it's just the idea that you are protected from prying eyes. Not that I mind, there are nice people there and they look down on the garden.
Now, Martin, because your garden is 30 feet up in the air, everything has to be in pots. Is that not very time-consuming?
Well, it is, but it gives one remarkable flexibility. The pots have to be maintained, and the beginning of the year there's hectic activity up here, planting out things. But at this time of the year, it becomes more maintenance, tidying up, and just constant watering. And I think watering is my favourite part of it.
You seem to be very fond of it. Blue Campagna.
Well, it seems to be very fond of us. People have called it the Chelsea weed because it now proliferates everywhere. And it's self-seeded, so at this time of the year it's got this wonderful sort of light mauvey purple. And I just let it go wherever it wants to and use that as a background colour to add purples and crimsons and pinks and things. If it likes it here, I'm not going to say no.
And obviously, the plants like you enjoy your container garden, don't you?
Oh yes. I think plants reflect the attention you give them. If you look after them, they respond. If you don't, they sulk. Unlike some people who, if you're nice to them, still sulk.
Well, your plants certainly aren't sulking. You have a massive planting here. Do you ever get any wildlife?
Oh yes, I mean a lot of birds. Magpies and jays and robins and wrens.
Even in London. I can hear a tremendous amount of bird life now.
Well, yes you can, because I have tapes of birds. I had the dawn chorus recorded in Northamptonshire, and I like to play them through the minaret speakers, which encourages other birds to come and sing.
Oh, does it really?
Yes. I've had extraordinary times where a song thrush will imitate the bird on the tape and create a dialogue.
So all that I can hear is really a bit of an illusion, is it? How do you control it?
Well, I can turn the volume up. or I can turn it off.
Do you ever play other things through there?
Oh yes, I like to play the sound of cicadas, you know, the zzz, zzz, zzz. And that creates a feeling that it's warm and you're in a Mediterranean environment. It's a very nice background sound, particularly on a cold day.
And how do the neighbours react to this?
Sometimes they ring me up and say, can I put the birds on because they've got a dinner party outside?
If you look at the plan, you'll see there's a fair area of paving, and paving, quite frankly, is expensive and way beyond our budget. So, to solve the problem, I borrowed a trailer and I went down to the reclaim yard, and sure enough, there in a corner was a great pile of old rubbish, which I bought from him for next to nothing. A few old paving slabs, some roofing tiles, some crazy paving, bricks, cobbles, and even a sewage pipe or two. They'll all come in useful. Now, if you're going to save money by paving with all sorts of odds and ends, there is, I'm afraid, a price to pay. It's just a little bit more fiddly. Now, you start off by banging in pegs all over the area that will finish at the level you want the paving to finish at, and you level those in with your straight edge and spirit level to make sure, if you're paving up against the house, that the paving slopes very slightly away from the house. And then you dig out below the pegs and put in the base. Now, the base consists of 6 parts of ballast to 1 part of cement, and you mix it dry and just rake it out level and then tread it down with your feet nice and hard, and the water will come up from the bottom, the rain will come down from the top, and it will very soon harden up. But you must make sure that you leave plenty of space between the top of the peg and the base, because bear in mind, all these materials you're using are different thicknesses. Now, you may remember from the plan that in this little corner I'm going to have a utility area for things like dustbins. So I want to hide those with a bit of trellis, and hence these posts. But of course you must put the posts in first, otherwise you'll be disturbing the paving. The paving slabs are laid on 5 points of mortar. You need quite a bit of mortar, believe me, but I can promise you that what you've gained on the swings by buying your stuff cheaply, you're not going to lose on the roundabouts. And you just rest the slab on the top like that, and then just tap it down level with a handle of a club hammer. But you must keep checking all the time that it's absolutely right with your straight edge, and that's fine. Now, normally when you lay slabs you would butt them up close together, but on my patio I'm leaving this little space in between, and I'll explain why later. Now, when you lay bricks you can see why you need a bit more space below it, because they go on their sides. Another one in there, I think that'll look rather nice. These sewage pipes can be quite easily cut with an angle grinder, which you can hire quite cheaply, and they come in for all sorts of uses. I've set this one onto mortar, but once the mortar's gone off, I shall knock out the middle bit and then put some soil in and use it for planting. But I've got another quite interesting use for the sewage pipes. it may seem a bit odd to use roofing tiles as a paving material, but in actual fact, laid on their edge, they make a very attractive and a very durable paving. Now, while I had the angle grinder to hand, I just cut them in half because obviously that makes them go twice as far. And then they're simply pushed into a bed of mortar. You just make sure that they're reasonably level, although they are very good for changing levels as well if you want to put them on a bit of a slope. And I think that'll look very nice. Leave the paving to set really hard for a few days, and then you can start work on the planting pockets. The first job is to knock out the concrete from the bottom and get rid of that. And then fill up the hole with a bit of really gritty compost. Now this should consist of equal parts of soil, coarse grit and garden compost. And then you can plant into that a spreading alpine like this little perennial lobelia. Instead of pointing in between the slabs and the bricks with sand and cement, you do it with a bit of compost, the same compost that was used for planting the plants. And that means you can have plants right the way over the patio. When you've completely filled all the cracks with compost, it's a good idea to put a bit of water on the top, and you'll find that this will wash quite a lot of compost between the cracks, and you'll have to do it again. You might even have to do it 2 or 3 times to really fill it up. And then what I want to do is to sow between all those cracks with alpine plants, which will grow quite happily in between the paving. So what you do is to get some mixed alpine seeds and just put them in a bucket full of sharp sand and mix it round really thoroughly, like that. And then that can go on the paving. And just brush it in around the cracks. Now you will find, of course, that if you tread all over the alpines, then obviously they're going to die out. But that doesn't really matter, because what will happen is that they'll die out on the bits of the patio that are really well used, but on the rest of it, they'll thrive, and you'll have a really attractive looking patio.
I was only 5, I think I was, and it was in the school holidays, and I went to McDonald's and bought a meal, and I got some seeds free with it. I just planted them, and I went out there with a watering can that I got free with these seeds, and I had a shovel that I dug it with, and I just watered them every night, and they just come off, and Mum and Dad thought it was a really good idea.
I mean, it wasn't planned at all. We had no intent. Well, when we first moved here, we was the same as everybody else. We just had a plain balcony that if it was hot, you went and stood out, you looked out, and there was traffic.
We've always been brought up in flats.
I've lived in these flats since I've been born, so I've never known no different. My mum and dad never had window boxes or anything. It was just a plain balcony. So I think we've achieved something quite good.
Just making the best of a bad thing, isn't it, really? Well, not such a bad thing, just, you know.
Best of what we've got.
You just go to work, then you come home and, well, it's our breath of fresh air. My breath of fresh air, anyway. It's like, you can go out of an evening, providing you can switch off the noise of the traffic. You could be anywhere. would be in the middle of the country or a nice little garden somewhere in the country, because you've got all the same plants as you would have in a garden, just limited for the amount of space. But if you can switch off where you are, we both have a go together. It's, you know, she's the one that knows the plants, but I know there's hostas. I like the hostas. They're a bit of class, I think, an hosta. You ever look at one of them? All the petunias and everything else is just like normal bedding stuff, really. Just put it in every year. But we've got some cordyline that are doing quite well out there. There's quite a few of them out there now. I mean, we're lucky really because we're facing the right way for the sun, like the south, and most things we put out there do grow. Hence the watering system, part of it. The reason we put it out there is because you get soaking wet, watering everything. You can't swing a cat out there, you know, there's no room at all. If you do the front's dripping, then you turn around to do the back, and all the front drips on your back, so you're soaked and you've got to get in the bath. So this way, it's like little drip heads and little sprays that go around, and they're all different sized drip heads according to how much water you want going to each plant. Like the bigger the pot, the more water you want going to it. You just turn it on, and boom, and it waters itself, like, you know. Just walk away and give it, say, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour. Turn it off, and you're done.
Once you start putting a few plants out there, it's surprising how it does change your life. You forget what's going on underneath and in the road, and you forget that there's traffic building up. It's lovely.
All right, you don't have to go over the top like we have. Just a couple of planters, just a couple of flower boxes, that's all you need. Don't cut a fortune. Make the world a better place, wouldn't it? Just a bit of colour here and there. Barren block of flats, and also just a big massive colour as you come along.
The Gardener family certainly proved that anything is possible. Who knows, one day Bermondsey in South London may be filled with the colour and scent of flowers. As I emerged out of yet another traffic jam and ventured on my way back to Barnsdale through yet another fume-filled road tunnel, I remembered all the sweet-smelling tunnels I've visited and realised once again why gardening in Barnsdale has kept me so content.
For my tunnel, I want to use hazel because it'll give me some very pleasant shade in the summer, and in the autumn, if I can keep the squirrels away, of course, hazelnuts as well. But I want to make the tunnel as uniform as I possibly can. So I'm going to start off by making a sort of a training arch with cut hazel. And to make that uniform, I've banged some stakes in the ground here to make a template. And then what you do is to stick your bit of hazel around the pegs like that and just bend it around carefully. Now, the fresher you can get this, the easier it bends, so try and buy it freshly cut. It goes in there, the other one goes the other side in just the same way. That's bent round too, carefully. Carefully twisted around the pegs too, like that. Like that, and then they can be wired together. Once you've made these arches, of course, you can't bang them in. So I have banged in these short posts at each station just to make sure that the arch is firm, make sure that they're nice and solid, and each leg goes down by the side of the post, and that'll be fixed to it later on. Now the only way really of working out whether it's level or not is to do it by eye. This side I think needs to go down a bit. Now the arches are nailed to these posts, but do bear in mind that hazel is popular with furniture makers and fencing makers and thatchers because it will split easily, and that's the last thing we want at the moment, so it has to be drilled. The final job is to fix horizontal hazel rods, one at the top and two on either side. And these are fixed in the normal way, just by wiring them on. And once again, you will have to continually stand back and just eye them up to make sure that the rods are horizontal and that the frames are in the right shape. And then this will turn those rather wonky arches into a very respectable tunnel. But do bear in mind that this is really only a training frame for the real thing. Now you can buy one-year-old nut trees from specialist nurseries, but you'll certainly have to search them out. And do remember that if you want a crop of nuts, then you do need two varieties, one to pollinate the other. I've bought a variety called Ennis and one called Gilbert, so I certainly should get some good crops from those. The trees are planted in prepared soil in the normal way, planting them at the same level they grew in the pots. And it's a good idea to use the same variety either side of the arch for a much more uniform effect. And then it only remains to tie the plants into the archways. Along the bottom of the nut walk, I've decided to plant a couple of rows of ladies' mantle. These superb evergreens are quite easy to grow in sun or shade, and in the summer they'll produce a foam of greeny yellow flowers. And I love the way the leaves trap the shining dewdrops.
My mission to bring the countryside into the garden wherever we live is now fully underway. The next problem to solve is how to create privacy without causing a feeling of claustrophobia. This can be helped by creating secret corners using features in the garden. So next week I'll introduce you to more experts who have already succeeded. And I'll show you how to do it yourself with plants, shrubs and trees.